Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Just want to make sure we're recording here. I'm going to take this out for a second. Okay. Thank you for joining us today at Family Office Insights Luminary Series. Big shout out to Wendy, who introduced Jeremy and Revere Partners to the community. And so super appreciate that as usual. She is a star. So I've got a chance to get acquainted with Jeremy and the team here. We have a bunch of folks on from Revere, and we're going to start at the beginning here, a little bit about the how this all came about, and then go through. And you're welcome to post your questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to as many as possible as we have a bunch of folks coming on today. We're also going to be sharing the recording of this. So as you see the presentation today, if there are others you think that might be interested, you're welcome to share that. And of course, connect directly with Jeremy, or you can contact us here at Family Office Insights as well. So Jeremy, thanks for doing this. Super happy to have you.
Arthur, thank you so much for having us. I'll second the shout out to Wendy. We're so appreciative of all that she does to support us. So thank you to Wendy Kraft. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about my journey and our journey here with Revere Partners. And we're here to talk about something that everybody can relate to. That is your mouth, your oral health. And I think that should be able to intrigue everybody. So our mission here at Revere is really threefold. We set out from the very beginning to redefine healthcare with oral health included. When you experience oral health, you experience it today separately from the rest of healthcare. You don't go to a healthcare practice that really looks in your mouth, and you don't go to an oral health practice that really assesses the rest of your body. Those two are disintegrated from each other in today's ecosystem, and we're trying to bring those two closer and closer together. And there's many reasons why we do that, and we'll tell you about those. In addition to that, we're trying to make care more affordable and accessible. Many people today cannot access or afford oral health care, yet we all have a mouth, and at one point or another, whether we like it or not, we encounter the oral healthcare professional. And last but not least, we're trying to advance the industry's science and technology. It's actually a very science-driven profession, and we're very good at creating intellectual property and filing that intellectual property and doing clinical studies and writing peer-reviewed published papers. But when it comes to innovating and it comes to commercializing, those are very challenging additional steps. We want to make sure that the right products get into the market and get into the consumer's hands in the way that they need them, or their mouths. So let's size the problem, because we're talking about a huge care gap that can really only be addressed through the adoption of technology. My hope is to convince you of that. We have a 340 million person population, and it's aging. There's 73 million, roughly 20% are baby boomers. We only have 200,000 dentists in the United States, and they account for about 150,000 practices. About 27% of those are consolidated by private equity funds into what we call the DSO, or Dental Support Organization, or roll-up. We spend as a society in the United States approximately 180 billion a year on dental care delivery. Another 50 billion roughly goes to insurance premiums, and another 40 billion roughly to oral care products that are immediately adjacent to your home care. So you're talking about there roughly 270 billion, right, in immediate spend on oral health annually here in the United States. Yet that leads to about 183 million hours of lost work due to dental issues, and 34 million school hours lost by children due to the same dental issues and early childhood decay. That's 46 billion a year in lost productivity. So the impact, this isn't just about your teeth. Many of the healthcare professionals, and we want to translate this to the rest of the world, view the oral health as a gateway to your overall health. And that's what I'm here to secondarily convince you of. Dental disease is very prevalent. 91% of adults have experience with dental cavities, and 27% of those remain untreated. For children, 50% ages 6 to 9 have cavities, and at least one of them is untreated. For periodontal disease, your gums becoming inflamed, your bone height reducing, 70% of adults 65 plus are affected, and 47% of adults 30 plus are affected. These are huge population problems, right? The access to care and frequency is also a struggle. 72 million in the United States lack dental insurance, any form of dental insurance or discount plan or anything like that. The average dental visit is once every 6 to 12 months, but yet your average primary care visit, if you even have a primary care physician, is once every 2 to 3 years. So you see this opportunity whereby oral care becomes the sort of first mile of healthcare, right? We have a point of access to the patient that the rest of the healthcare profession doesn't necessarily have. There are systemic health connections to oral health that you must realize. I'm not here to scare you, just here to speak reality, in that Alzheimer's patients, up to 70% of them may have had preceding gum disease, a particular bacteria and its toxic messenger crossing the blood-brain barrier and precipitating Alzheimer's-like plaques in the brain.
This, Jeremy, was fascinating to me. Aside from the overwhelming stats that you just went through, uh, this makes logical sense, but I don't think that people realized this as I didn't. It's really fascinating. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for
So,
sharing.
so let's drive that point home, because it also bridges into cardiovascular disease, where there's 19% overall higher cardiovascular disease risk and 28% higher heart attack risk, specifically. For diabetes, 22% of people with diabetes have periodontal disease, and some studies report it's over 90% for type 2 are affected. So the numbers are huge when you look at these other systemic health conditions. I promise this will be the last scary slide in the presentation, but it's not just Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. If those weren't enough, it's also cancer. It's also rheumatoid arthritis and musculoskeletal conditions. Folks, we all have a mouth. The multiple periodontal disease cavities are the two of the top 10 most chronic diseases per the NIH every year, year after year. They're major public health crises here in the United States. And it crosses over into work and school. We have to work, we have to go to school, and we can't do those things when we're affected by disease. So how did we get where we are today? Revere is currently raising its third fund. We began with a first fund deploying over $10 million into many oral healthcare technology companies. We have to use technology because we only have 150,000 practices and millions upon millions of patients affected in many, many ways. And we looked at software, fintech, biotech, and medtech, and we earned a gross IRR, internal rate of return, of 28.5% by doing that. We proved the concept, we validated the market. We started a second fund. It now remains evergreen. This is how we bring in healthcare professionals. It's how we bring healthcare executives as well as institutional investors. So this second fund is a mixed fund. It looked at larger investment sizes, larger valuations, and larger investors as a whole. And we're now raising our third fund. And I'll tell you more about that as we get into it. In total, across our past portfolio, so funds 1 and fund 2 combined, we've now made a total of 47 investments. We've had 21 markup events across the portfolio. We've made 22 reinvestments into among the highest performing of these companies. We've had 4 exits that we've announced to the public, and there are 3 that we have not yet announced, so 7 total exits. We get 3 deals that apply to us organically per day. Revere is global, but that's a North America focus. We've diligenced over 1,600 oral healthcare related technologies. And we've earned that 28.5% internal rate of return, putting us in the upper decile of performance. How do we do this? We do it really in 4 ways, and this is our competitive edge. We've built an ecosystem. It wasn't enough just to have funds. Funds exist in historic spaces where there is an organized entrepreneurship ecosystem below it. We needed to build that and help bridge that here as well. So Revere has these areas of corporate services. It has its own syndicate. It's vertically integrated, its own fund administration. It does these things to make the funds successful. We have an end-to-end view across the industry, being able to scale companies and exit companies reliably as a result. Our team is world-class, and I'll tell you about them in a minute, and you'll hear from one of them on this call. These are people who are key experts across the industry. They work at levels of operating partners and venture partners and advisors. They participate in our diligence process. They help us bring investors into our fund. These are the leaders across the industry globally that are a part of this team, in addition to the nearly 24 on the internal management team. Our deal flow is proprietary. We don't miss oral healthcare related and healthcare related companies to invest in. We get unfettered access to them. We are invited first. We are given the terms of the lead, even if we are not the lead, because we are the strategic minority investor that helps those companies successfully scale and exit. And last but certainly not least, for those of you that haven't heard of an oral healthcare investment before, this is an uncorrelated to private market performance, diversified type investment that is high performing.
Jeremy, I know you're going to talk about the team now, but at some point, will you talk about the lack of professionals and what the trends are happening there?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So Arthur, we're happy to, why don't I address that now? The oral healthcare industry is not immune to the same trend in this regard that the rest of the healthcare industry has faced. And I think, in fact, one of our portfolio companies joining us today will talk about this in a specific regard with regard to the specialty they're focused on. But we've seen a mass exodus of staff post-COVID, not only dentists retiring earlier, but the support staff, the support clinical staff in particular, the dental assistant, the hygienists. They either want higher salary demands or they want different work hours or they just want to retire earlier, right? In addition to the front desk, right? Your business operational staff. They've also become harder to find. We have invested in multiple solutions, and I'll point them out when we get to the portfolio that help handle this issue of staffing and the opportunity on the other side of automation.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. So our team's leadership is myself and my co-founder, Dave. We have C-level officers, if you will. Dominic is our chief science officer, chemist by training. He's based in Switzerland, one of our primary countries. In addition to that, he has founded a company called Curodont, a company called Credentis, a product called Curodont, now widely used and distributed in the United States, the first company to be able to regenerate a cavity. So if you have a cavity we call an incipient lesion, right, an early cavity, you're able to paint this on and it's able to restore that cavity without any drilling, minimally invasively. Our investment team is led by Richie. Richie's also a former healthcare professional, scaled 13 practices. In addition to that, Richie then ran 2 previous funds in the biotech and life sciences sectors, and then came to Revere's investment team. We have our capital origination and formation team. Our business operations team consists of Imi, who joins us today on the call, based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Kelsey, who runs our business operations. And then our venture partners, one of which you'll hear from, who's also an LP today, Dr. Ed Zuckerberg, Kathy O'Loughlin's a tenured led the American Dental Association for 10 years. Dr. Jan Kalika runs one of these DSOs, 30 locations. He's an orthodontist. He's a key opinion leader for Straumann, a large corporate in the space. Insofar as my background, I'm a dentist, licensed dentist here in the United States with an MBA. I went to Tufts and University of Chicago. I scaled 10 practices over about 10 years and sold them. After that, I went to startups. I was first at Oscar Health. We IPO'd, then Quip. I'm the dentist behind Quip. We scaled it to a private company unicorn. I exited in a secondary event. Went to Simplify, 24/7 live chat and payments platform, partnered with Bank of America. We exited it to a private equity firm, NEA Partners. And then after that, 5-6 years ago, started Revere. Okay, so now is the fun part. We get to turn over and hear from some of the folks who are in it with us ourselves, who have been in it from the early days or from even the very beginning. In the case of Ed, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Ed. It's a real treat to have him on the call today. He's incredibly accomplished in the field, not just as a dentist and healthcare professional, but what he's done on the innovation and entrepreneurship side and some of our shared passions. So without further ado, Ed, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us all about your experience.
Sure, happy to. Thanks for the invite, bringing me on the call, Jeremy. And I've been a general dentist for 47 years, although the last 12 years or so, pretty much non-clinical, except for I think my current active roster counts only my son and my wife that I'm in charge of for primary care. But I do have an affiliation with an office out in Cupertino that lets me beta test new products and try out some new treatment therapies when I need to get my hands wet. I guess I was an early adopter, visionary, without even realizing it. To me, it was just natural to put like the first IBM PC XT in my dental office in 1985, 40 years ago, which, by the way, my office was located in my house in Westchester County, New York. That setup enabled my wife and I. My wife's also a psychiatrist who also gave up her career to help run our office from the house. It enabled us to really have a focus on our 4 children. And I guess we set up a super high-tech home, which was different from any other home back in the mid-90s, having computerized our transmission of dental claims back in 1990, adopting early technologies such as intraoral photography, which I did with the first AccuCam intraoral camera in the late 1980s. And ironically, only a couple of years ago, as things come around, I took a pitch from the developer of that early AccuCam system, who was pitching an ultrasonic periodontal probe to us not too long ago. Other early technologies I adopted were lasers, aeroabrasion, and then in 1998, I guess what really made me realize that I was different for the first time was when I put digital X-ray in my office. So I'm the first of my colleagues to utilize digital X-ray. And for me, the $15,000 price tag was a bargain, because I looked at this technology and I said, it's always been a struggle getting patients to accept treatment. And with this tool, I was off a little, but I predicted that I would sell about $100,000 more in dentistry that year. Our practice was grossing about $800,000 a year then. And I was off a little. We actually did about $150,000 more for my investment. But in talking to my colleagues at the Greater New York Dental Meeting, one of the largest dental meetings in the world that November, and they were asking me about my new toy as they looked at it, and asked me how I was going to justify the expense. They asked questions like, are you going to charge more for x-rays? Are you going to take more x-rays? And I realized they didn't get what I got, the vision of how this would transform the practice of care and the acceptance of recommended treatment. And I realized to get across to them, I had to be much more concrete and appeal to what they could see with their limited vision. And they could see things like replacing the cost of film with digital, which saved them about $5,000 a year. So I was able to explain to them how, obviously in 3 years, the machine would pay back itself without even bringing any extra dental sales. Later on, realizing that gift, I was able to kind of transform into the second career when my wife and I decided to move out to California when our first grandchild was born 14 years ago. And I started lecturing to my dental colleagues, and what they wanted to know, since I had a famous son that you can probably tell from my last name, they wanted to know about social media and how dentists could use it. But what I really wanted to talk about was technology adoption. And around the same time, startups in the field were reaching out to me for advice on how to bring their businesses from ground stage to market. And that was fun, helping them. And, during my lectures at national conferences, I bumped into Jeremy several times. We made an acquaintance, we would chat and probably commiserate also about how we both could look at startups and know what they needed, and we could bring them along just so far, but at some point they needed funding, which we really didn't have access to. I mean, I did have, my youngest daughter at the time was an associate at Kleiner Perkins. She's now a full partner at Long Journey Ventures. And I used her as an access point to the VC world here in the Silicon Valley where I live. got many intros. And when the pandemic started, I must have had about 20 speaking gigs lined up that year, which of course, all got canceled. And about a year later, after doing webinars and continued outreach and advisement with my portfolio companies, Jeremy reached out to me and gave me the opportunity to join Revere. And it sounded like more of what I was doing, except not in a vacuum. The ability to view a pitch and then really consult with the network of key opinion leaders that we had on staff at Revere that enabled me to, if a product had regulatory issues, we have an FDA or regulatory people. If there was a question about the chemistry, which I don't kind of have the background for, I could reach out to Dominic and get answers on that. If it was an orthodontic product, we had several key members in all the different specialties in dentistry. So I could bring in oral surgeons, orthodontists, and whatnot, and together we could powwow and each open our eyes to things that we saw, strengths and weaknesses, and then that enabled us in those early years, startup of the company almost 5 years ago, to really narrow the field, because we were looking at several hundred companies each quarter, of which we were boiling it down to the 4 best investment ideas. And then, of course, investing my own money because of my belief in our product and our ability to single out companies that could bring returns that exceeded either market performance or allowed for diversification from my non-healthcare investing portfolio, which was pretty much everything else. So, over the years, it's been a fruitful relationship, and, we've done great work, and I'm happy to be part of the team.
Thank you.
Super. And thanks for joining, and thanks for sharing.
I will add, Arthur, that about 4 years ago, there was a company that was brought to my attention that not through Revere, but it didn't really fill any of my previous strengths in technology and dentistry and understanding the way dentists look at problems, and also, having my wife, a psychiatrist, available to consult with me all the time, gave me insights on how patients perceive dental treatments and therapies. I was exposed to a company that had a monoclonal antibody to eradicate the bacteria P. gingivalis. And like most dentists, I'd heard of P. gingivalis and knew it was a key pathogenic bacteria, but I didn't realize the extent of the damage that it could do systemically, the pathway of exactly how it did that. I mean, I, like most of my colleagues, were taught in dental school that when you had gum disease and inflamed gums, some of the bacteria made its way into the bloodstream through the inflamed gums, and once in the bloodstream, they caused havoc with the organ systems of the body. Nothing really concrete for us to really understand the pathways, but really taking a deep dive into the bacteria P. gingivalis and its mechanism of how it is a key player in diabetes, dementia, heart disease. And I have to say, the last 4 years, I'm still involved in dental technology, but kind of everything that drives me now relates to the oral systemic connection. I've become an expert, and you could argue that among dentists, I probably am the premier expert on P. gingivalis in the world. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people that know a lot more about P. gingivalis than me. There are researchers that do nothing but spend their entire lives studying P. gingivalis. In fact, there's a conference that meets biannually that has over 200 of these researchers that do nothing but study P. gingivalis. But among dentists, bringing a package of knowledge of understanding the bacteria, how it affects the body, and also understanding how patients would be receptive to certain treatments, allows me to look at new companies that are at the forefront of eradicating periodontal disease in the mouth and being able to know and look and using my vision to tell which companies can succeed and which ones won't is pretty much what I bring to the table for Revere right now.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I appreciate you saying that, because my question / comment was, not only were you confident in voting with your checkbook with Revere, you're an integral part of deal flow and analysis of what to deploy capital in. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes that, from what I can tell, you've got, aside from the investments that you would have made independent of Revere, you've got institutional quality, operational capabilities here, as well as other professionals to convene your thoughts and opportunities with. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, and what I love about being part of the team is, even though my expertise is limited to certain companies that are in the periodontal and systemic health space, many of the companies we deal with are outside my expertise, but I know the rest of the Revere team, the team that brings expertise in orthodontics, the team that brings expertise in understanding back office operations, etc. And I can rely on their expertise to know that the funds that I'm investing in, Revere's funds, are being properly allocated.
Yeah. Super interesting. So it's been really helpful, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, for your continued support. Appreciate it. I want to introduce our next speaker too, Dr. Ingrid Murrah. She's the founder and CEO of TwoFront. TwoFront's a tech-enabled orthodontics company backed by Kraft and Revere. It partners with general dentists to offer orthodontist supervised clear aligner treatment like Invisalign, ensuring comprehensive bite alignment and high quality care within the dentist's office. Ingrid and TwoFront have been a portfolio company that is high performing within our portfolio. Ingrid, without further ado.
Awesome, Jeremy. Thank you for having me. And it's super great to meet everyone. So my quick background, and like Jeremy mentioned, is I'm an orthodontist by trade. I was lucky enough to go to a great residency. I went to Harvard for my residency, where I specialized in straightening teeth with clear aligners instead of braces. And one thing that I recognized in residency is that orthodontics is largely this cosmetic looking consumer segment of dentistry. And I realized, to tie it back to the oral health connection, that orthodontics is actually the foundation of being able to really have a healthy mouth throughout your lifetime. And accordingly, it's very hard for patients to access high quality orthodontic care. 60% of the US does not have access to an orthodontist. And of those orthodontists, unfortunately, less than 10% actually specialize in moving teeth with clear aligners instead of braces. And so that means that we've got less than 1,000 orthodontists in the United States that can actually get adults straight teeth and a healthy bite using Invisalign as a tool for 330 plus million people. So TwoFront is a marketplace, like Jeremy mentioned, where we connect the top 1% of independent orthodontists in the United States to dental practices, the 135,000 plus dental practices all over the United States, so that patients can have a healthy foundation using Invisalign by a top orthodontist. We are a multiple times Kraft-backed company. We are partnered with Invisalign. They support us in introducing us to new dental practices, because ultimately the way it works is that when we partner with a dentist, we really help them skyrocket their Invisalign cases. There's a lot of reasons why dentists don't offer Invisalign well. And it basically breaks down into two buckets, which is the clinical bucket of not being specialized in the tool, and then the administrative bucket of it just takes a lot of time. There's a lot of hassles, a lot of what's called refinements in the dental world, which means having to order more and more aligners, prolonging the chair time, and ultimately making it less profitable, which makes dentists not want to offer more Invisalign treatment. So Another quick couple facts is we're doing about $8.4 million in revenue. We're quickly growing almost consistently at between 15 to 20% month over month growth. So we're now preparing for our Series A in 2026. And Revere Partners has been fantastic in helping us meet some of the top DSOs in the country, really connecting us with industry leaders. Jeremy is always, a text away for any questions that I have about the industry. They've helped us really navigate conferences, which are very big trade conferences that have been really great to navigate with Revere support. And they've also helped us form our latest SPV to get some of our customers who have been wanting to invest in 2Front invested in 2Front ahead of raising our Series A round. So really excited and happy to be partnered with Revere, and it's really great to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Ingrid.
Well, thanks, Ingrid. Can I ask a quick question? I know we're got some time constraints here, but Jeremy, can I ask a quick question
Yes,
of
please.
Ingrid? Is there a skill set, aside from the reasons you say that dentists or orthodontists don't want to engage in the Invisalign, is there a skill set that is over and above what a normal orthodontist would otherwise not have to do the Invisalign treatments?
Yes, it's a great question. There's two things that have prevented this tool, really prevented Align from becoming a massive, they're already a massive company, right? But there's two reasons that limits its growth. The first is the skill set. And even, the foundational skill set of moving teeth is called biomechanics. That is what orthodontists specialize in. But once you actually specialize in biomechanics, you then need to learn how to use a tool to move teeth. And that tool is either metal, brackets and wires, or it's plastic and attachments, which are those tooth-colored things on the teeth. And there's less than 10% of orthodontists in the United States who specialize in Invisalign or biomechanics using clear aligners. The reason we use Invisalign as a tool is because we're able to get patients the best outcomes in the shortest amount of time, which ultimately is best for the patient, and it's also best for the business owner because it's most profitable because it takes the least amount of time.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Thanks for answering that. Okay, Jeremy, continue. Thank you for being with us, Ingrid. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. Really appreciate it. The presentation went down here, so just wondering if our team can re-put that back on. Sharon, if you can hear this.
Let's see. There it is.
Okay, let's see. It's still actually loading on my screen.
So while that's loading, can we take a question from the audience?
Yes, let's do that.
So,
Sorry, bear with me.
breaking up a little bit. The question is, what are the exit
Connection's
opportunities
a
in
little
terms
bit.
of years? Yeah, no worries. We'll figure it out here.
Go ahead, Arthur, on that question. I'll answer that while the screen
So,
shared.
I think we might have to interpret the question a little bit. What's the exit opportunities in terms of years? It might be related to the fund or the exits within the fund.
Yeah, so when we first actually started, this is where we started. My co-founder and I are very analytic backgrounds. Me from Chicago Booth and Oscar, him from Bridgewater. We both had kind of a lot of an analytics background coming to this. So before we even started the fund, as there was no fund, right? We're the first venture capital fund and now largest and oldest venture capital fund. There are more now today in the space. We said, let's see if we can prove, right? How does this work? We ended up publishing multiple white papers, putting together a database of 800 plus historic transactions. Now, of course, we have many of our own. What we did was we put together a large matrix, right? A matrix by type of company. So software, fintech, biotech, medtech, and a matrix by stage of company: seed stage, seed plus, A plus, B plus, right? Inside of the cells of that matrix, each cell has a number of years right, to return, and also has a multiples range as well. So, and I don't love the law of averaging, but when you average these together, it takes about 4.8 years to get to a 5.2x. This is what our research found, right? It now, again, an earlier stage, biotech compared to a, middle stage fintech compared to a later stage software. These things obviously behave differently in the market, and there is diversification within our fund. But the net averaging would be it takes 4.8 years to a 5.2x. So what we do is we aim for 4 to 10x, and we tell investors to prepare for 5 to 7 years. You'll notice that that's a little bit quicker than your typical med tech, right? Return timelines. We don't have as many clinical trial hurdles here. We don't have as long regulatory tails here in this industry as some of the other healthcare industries do. So Arthur, let me tell you about our third fund. We'll go on to that next slide. Thank you. We're raising our third fund. It's a $100 million target. We are going to put 70% of that towards new investments and 30% to follow on. We'll deploy that over 3 to 5 years with that 5 to 7 year holding period. We will look to make 20 to 30 new investments, 30 to 40 total investments, including reinvestments in mostly Series A stage companies. We'll seek to own about 5 to 20%, below 25% stakes. We're that strategic minority investor. Looking for valuations, 15, 20 million on the low end, 40 to 60 million dollars on the high end. Our average check size into those companies will be 2 to 3 million. We'll lead on roughly 40 to 50% of them, and we'll go up to 5 million on some of the investments as well, especially including reinvestments. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So a little bit about our investment team and strategy. So we look for 5 major things when we invest in a company, right? Because we're receiving 3 company applications a day. We invest in far less than 1%. So we're looking at how will it return to the fund, right? There's obviously a complicated analysis that goes on there. Is it in a market that we want to be in, right? There's top down and bottom up to this. Bottom up, what deals are we receiving right now? Who's best to invest in? Top down is what industry subsectors are we in versus ones we want to be in. Then there's the fund fit. Are we able to help this company, right? Our services are pretty significant to advance a company, but does it fit well within those services? Its exit potential. Who are we going to sell this? Who could we see buying this in the end? Given our connections into the industry, we're usually able to pretty well vet that before even investing. And then is it a leader? Is it a multiple leader category or a single leader category? Where do they fall within the leadership of that category? Are they likely to get sort of squashed by an incumbent, or is somebody else likely to step into the vertical, or are they the leader within the vertical? We'll go to the next slide. So our investment process is significant. First of all, we have 2 teams that parallel process this entire investment process. An industry team that knows the dynamics of the dental space, know the technical and clinical components of each of these technologies, and then the business team, your more typical investment analyst team. They'll go through an initial screening process. They'll go to primary diligence, internal checklists, internal data, internal benchmarks. They'll go to a secondary diligence process, external checkpoints, additional data points requested from the company, interviews, all kinds of reference checks. This is about a 60 to 100 page report that gets written, goes to an investment committee, has nearly 24 people on it who are scrutinizing and looking at the company from different perspectives. And then it'll go through a last and final financial and legal check before we ultimately negotiate the investment, which requires a mandatory side letter of terms and most favored nations, of course, with the lead investor. So it's a significant process that these less than 1% that we invest in go through in order to seek an investment. Go to the next slide. So I mentioned our exit strategy a little bit, the previous slide, which is threefold, right? We can exit to the early stage corporate, or we can exit to the later stage private equity fund, right? So we're sometimes looking at, is this company a technology exit, right? It maybe had some, early commercial traction validation, but there's a really good exit opportunity now. Or in these cases, it's a little more likely to go to the corporate in the space, the manufacturer, the distributor, the insurer, the DSO, right? Or is it a later stage company? It's now crossed this sort of valley of death. It's significantly scaled commercially. It is beyond growth capital, has more to succeed, but with the right backer, right? Then you're really talking more of a PE, right? Acquisition or sponsor. And we of course maintain those connections. Many of those, when I say corporate services are part of our ecosystem, many of those corporates and private equity funds rely on Revere for this space to do the diligence and to do the deal flow, right? They are either LPs in our fund, or if they come to us when we don't have an open fund opportunity, then they become clients of the fund. and Revere is relied on as the key source of deal flow and diligence for the oral health technology sector. Our portfolio success services are also fairly significant. We are a minority investor and we get involved. We help the companies fundraise in multiple different ways, from an 8 dozen co-investor database, including large investors like Kraft, all the way down to small and focused investors, our own syndicate, our own funds. In addition to, we help these companies with the regulatory process, work with folks in Health Canada in the CE process, in the FDA process. We help these companies scale by channel partnership, getting to the right distributor, manufacturer, OEM to be able to scale. We help expose them to over 75 vendor services that you'd otherwise not be able to get access to, either free or discounted. And then ultimately, we have an internal team that helps with that exit process. So we'll go to the next slide. We're going to skip that one as I already covered it. So our current portfolio, to give you a kind of bird's eye view, we have those 47 companies. We see over 200 to 250 a quarter. We've invested in less than 1%. They're broken down this way into software, fintech, scientific and clinical, specialty, and imaging. In reality, this breaks out to a complex map. We're the kind of first and only to be able to map the entire ecosystem of different technology categories. But you can see it's pretty diversified across these different types of returners. Some are also cross-applicable. This is the total portfolio. The ones in green are those publicly announced exits. Some of them have sold to private equity. Some of them have sold to public companies. Some of them have sold to private companies. For example, Twice, a company that was co-founded by Lenny Kravitz and invested in by Lenny Kravitz, is a toothpaste company. This company sold to Guru Nanda. It's the single largest oral care product company that serves Walmart, as an example. There are companies around the world here. So PharmaTrail is based in Switzerland. SoSmile is based in Brazil, a larger dental market than the United States. You have companies from all around the globe. You have companies here, Arthur, solving the problem of these staffing crises. So Cloud Dentistry and Toothio are two of the most prominent staffing companies directly within the industry, and they have unique matching algorithms. But in addition to that, you have companies like TwoFront and others who are serving AirPay. These things are serving functions that you would otherwise need to hire a human to do. AirPay solves the problem of insurance verification. You don't need somebody to sit at the front desk and wait 2 hours to speak to an insurance company and verify your rates. Yeah. Right? So employing the right technologies helps to reduce your headcount, and not only that, but be more accurate, frankly, within your practice. We'll go to the next slide, as I know we're coming up on time. We have many high performers. Our 28.5% IRR is not, gross IRR is not carried by one company. We have many now that have even exceeded the benchmarks that are on here. These are at their last rounds. Companies like TwoFront, are typically reaching 5, 6, 7, 8 million, up to 10 million in ARR from just our first or second turn on them to the next round. Pure Logic is our single biggest on paper performer currently. They're at a 19x. We've invested 3 times, including our initial investment. And they're in the AI space. So they are applying conversational intelligence to the phone conversation between the front desk and the office and optimizing it for conversion. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. This is the last slide. Again, as I know we're at time, but this is really the brass tacks of it. Our target raise is 100 million. With the GP commit as well. We actually commit in multiple ways beyond the aggregate capital commitment. We have our standard fees here. This is a 2 and 20 fee structure, 2% management fee, 20% carry over the assumed fund lifetime. We look and take only accredited investors, Reg D. And family offices, I want to point out, receive direct investment rights in the portfolio companies. We really encourage this among family offices. If they're passionate about a company and what the company is doing, for example, they're passionate about solving the cancer crisis across the nation. They see a company that is diagnosing or treating oral cancer or other cancers through the mouth, then they are very much welcome to and encouraged to invest in these portfolio companies as well. So I'm going to stop there, Arthur, and see if we have any additional thoughts or questions.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is just ask you a couple quick questions, and then we have to wrap it up. And how far along on this raise, and when do you hope to wrap it up?
That's a great question, Arthur. So most of our investors will be in by the end of October. The formal deadline is 11/14 for the first close of the fund. We're aiming at 20 to 30% of the $100 million target to anchor it, and we are tracking there, if not oversubscribed. There will be a second tranche to be raised in the spring, and a third and final tranche to be raised next fall. Those in the next fall typically, look like pensions and endowments that come in at that point.
Got it. And on the direct investment opportunities for the family offices, is that done without any co-investment fees? It's just access. If you're in the fund, you can invest. Either
Also,
way, it's fine. I was just wondering how you work with that.
yeah, no, it's a great question. We grant the direct investment, right? If they're comfortable investing directly in technologies and on the cap table, we allow it. In many cases, through our syndicate, we do have an open SPV. In these cases, there's additional diligence materials, supplied if they want to go through that process. In addition to that, they have the security of other investors coming in to help close the rest of the round. The other benefit is if there's family name, for example, or brand involved, there's that brand insularity that's there. If they're an active LP in our fund, they never pay more than 50% capped fees on our SPVs. So, for example, if they're at 2 and 20, they'd max pay a 1 in 10 in the SPV. And also, the SPV carries the proprietary round terms with it contractually. Right? We can't guarantee that if they go and invest directly in the firm.
Totally. Totally makes sense. Super helpful. Okay, we do need to wrap it up. Thank you, Jeremy. That was awesome. Ed, Ingrid, and Ema, I know you're there somewhere. This has been super interesting. I was fascinated by the whole thing when we first spoke, so I'm glad we got an opportunity to share it with the community. And we'll also be doing this again, but in further depth on the 14th next week. And so we're looking forward to that. So thank you, everybody, for doing this. And Jeremy, nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much to our team for collaborating. Thank you, Arthur.
Okay. And thank you, everybody, for joining today and sharing with us the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Till next time. Thanks, everybody.